What's up, gamers? You have TigerChainsaw here. And I know, I am fully dripped out in this holographic Muse sweatshirt that I've had for probably about 10 years. Had to bust it out every now and then. I love showcasing this. I'll never wear it in public, but I thought, I'll look stupid on YouTube. I always do, so why not wear it for a video? Now let's get into my Mystery House review. This game invented a new genre. It had graphics. For the first time on the computer, it was crazy what you could do because you evolved from a text adventure to a graphic adventure. And this adventure had some horror themes on it, and it was created by one of my favorite women in gaming, that is Roberta Williams. She is the creative genius and half of Sierra Online Entertainment. Her husband, Ken Williams, is another fantastic programmer, and the two of them worked together to bring us Mystery House in 1980. So how does this game hold up 40 years later? We're gonna find that out. Now, if this is your first time on my channel, or if you just haven't yet, make sure you hit that sub button to watch plenty of retro video game reviews that I've already done, and plenty that are on the way. All right, we are going to time warp back to 1980. This was the first graphical adventure game that I know of, and we're gonna see how it does with my review. An entirely new genre of video games was born when Ken and Roberta Williams created Mystery House in 1980 for the Apple II computer. The horror adventure game was the first of its kind, as it featured graphics on the screen as the player typed in commands. It was an instant hit and laid the framework for Sierra Online to become one of the most dominant developers of video games for the next 20 years. What does Mystery House offer over 40 years later? We're gonna find that out, starting with the plot of Mystery House, but be warned, spoilers are ahead. You control an unnamed character who approaches a large mansion. Why you are there and whoever invited you, you'll never know. As you enter the mysterious house, you are greeted by 7 guests. Tom is a plumber, Sally is a seamstress, Dr. Green is a surgeon, Sam is a mechanic, Joe is a gravedigger, Bill is a butcher, and Daisy is a cook. The door behind you locks, and as soon as you leave the room, the guests disperse. You soon find that one of the guests is a killer. As you explore the mansion, you find the bodies one by one. You slowly start crossing the characters off the list. There are creepy notes left behind in the house, and one of them even mentions jewels somewhere in the house. Walking around the house, you pick up clues and weapons, and you narrowly escape a dagger being thrown at you. Eventually, after searching the mansion, walking through a nearby forest, and returning back to the mansion, it's clear who the killer is. It's Daisy. You find her hiding above the attic in a trap door. With no other choice, you pull the trigger on the gun and kill Daisy. A note is found on the floor that tells you something's in the basement. You explore a bit more in the basement, and you discover that Daisy had hid the jewels behind a loose brick. With the jewels in your pocket, you leave the mystery house behind and walk through the front door. Mystery House may seem primitive, but back in 1980, I'm sure it blew people away. I recently read Ken Williams' book on the rise and fall of Sierra, titled Not All Fairy Tales Have Happy Endings. I read this entire book on my flight to Hawaii. It was incredible to read all the history behind this massive game company. Roberta Williams, who is Ken's wife, became enamored with a text-based adventure game. She had the idea of making her own game, and she knew that Ken, who was an expert computer programmer, could create it for her. She convinced him, and then she started writing the story and drew the graphics. In just a few weeks, Ken programmed Mystery House. He brought the game to a few computer stores where the customers went nuts for it. Soon he was selling Mystery House all over America, and so Sierra was born. I wanted to pay my respects to Sierra and play the starting point of this company. So I played Mystery House from 1980. I solved the mystery and came away with the jewels, but believe me, it wasn't easy at first. You type in basic commands on the screen after reading the text. Visually, you are presented with very primitive graphics. It was difficult at times to decipher what exactly I was looking at. Objects like knives, matches, candlesticks, and other items are going to be scattered throughout the house. You'll have to squint to figure out what they are. The graphics were fine. Believe me, it's 1980, I'm not going to be picky. But my biggest complaint was the commands. I died about 20 times after a fire started in the dining room. What you have to do is pour water from a pitcher that you are holding onto the fire to extinguish it. I knew this, and I tried different verbs and nouns to put out the fire, but I failed every time. It was very frustrating, and it wasn't until I looked up the exact phrase that I was able to proceed. If you didn't get the command right on the first try, the fire kills you. So I died a lot before looking up what stupid exact phrase I had to say. Mystery House is a short game. If you know what you're doing, you can beat it within 15 minutes, but back in 1980, I'm sure this was all mind-blowing, so I'm sure it took people a couple days or maybe even weeks to beat it. I have a pretty good grasp of how games work, so it wasn't that I didn't know what to do, but rather how to do it. That's where I kind of got annoyed with the commands. There's a few instances of complete bewilderment in this game. My biggest example is when I was walking through a forest that looks the same on each screen. It is incredibly difficult to navigate. Now, thankfully guides exist, but what you need to do is go north 4 times in a row and then magically type in open door, and you'll enter the kitchen of the mansion again. Who in a million years would have thought to do those commands? There must have been something that maybe I missed that could have tipped me off, but I was stuck at that portion for a very long time and I had no idea what I was doing. Especially because all the forest screens look identical. Now, the atmosphere of Mystery House is as good as it could have gotten in 1980. A looping music bed would have been amazing to add that spooky feel to the game, but Ken couldn't add music due to the low technical limitations that he was working with. I have a good imagination, so the game, despite using stick figures and limited graphics, put me into the shoes of someone investigating murders while trying not to get killed himself. I don't think you'll beat Mystery House on your first try, unless you're using a guide. When I did use the guide, I only used it a few times, mainly because I couldn't figure out the commands. It was frustrating to restart certain areas over and over, but I could tell that this game had a very addicting appeal to it. Even when I failed, I was eager to start over and reach the next portion of the game. A few items that you find I don't really think had a purpose, which I kind of liked that. And there's even a character, Joe the Gravedigger, that doesn't have a purpose and he doesn't die. You find Joe in the cemetery with 6 freshly dug graves, but he doesn't speak to you or pose a threat. Maybe he's in on those murders with Daisy, but I didn't find any more evidence to suggest that he was. This is probably one of my most unique reviews that I've done because this game took place such a long time ago, and who I would love to hear from are those that were back around in 1980 that played this game around that time. What were people saying about this game? Was it groundbreaking? Were they freaked out by the murders? What did they think of the graphics that were being presented to them on screen? It's easy for me to look back on this and say how primitive it was, but I can also really appreciate the groundbreaking mechanics, graphics, and gameplay that came from Mystery House. So if you did play this back around that time, please drop me a comment below and let me know your thoughts of when you first played this game. After reading the book, Not All Fairy Tales Have Happy Endings, I knew I had to play Mystery House to see how it all started. Mystery House revolutionized the adventure game with the technical genius of Ken Williams, paired with the creative genius of Roberta. They'd go on to create many more games and launch Sierra. Mystery House is very rough around the edges for today's standards, but to appreciate this game, I can deal with the outdated graphics, as there's really not too much to look at. The command function can be very frustrating, and I'm sure someone in 1980 was maybe a little bit more forgiving than I am today. Mystery House started an entirely new genre, so it gets major credit for that. But some inconveniences are impossible to ignore, which is why I'm giving Mystery House a 7.1 out of 10. This is a good game, and I encourage anyone who loves text adventures, point-and-click adventures, or just someone that appreciates history in video games to play this. It's free online, and you can beat it within an hour, so chop chop, get to it. So there you have it, my review of Mystery House that was released in 1980. I absolutely love Sierra Entertainment. It was one of my favorite developers for so long. I love the point-and-click adventure games. And so I'm curious, what are some point-and-click adventure games that you can recommend to me? I'm really familiar with all of Sierra's library, so maybe you can give me some games that are not made by them. But I do want to hear from you guys on your thoughts on Mystery House. Do you want to play it? It's not that long of a game, but to experience the historical aspect of it, I think it's pretty cool. While you're dropping me a comment, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel to watch plenty of retro video game reviews. Happy gaming, thanks for watching, and make sure you play a video game today.